Let's talk about Sukuna's curse tools. And if you like Jujutsu Kaisen and other anime content, subscribe to this channel for more. In multiple of the depictions of Sukuna in the past, we see him using weapons. And some people have completely forgot about this, and I don't blame them, because they have only really been depicted twice, and one of them was a front cover. And are they even curse tools? Well, the truth is, we don't know. They might even be part of his technique, and he stores them the same way he stores things like his flame arrow. But that being said, what are they? Well, we actually have more information on that. At least if we dig into mythology, because these aren't just your average curse tools. Just like the inverted spear of heaven, these are based on divine weapons. In one of Sukuna's right hands, he has what's called the Trishula, and in Hinduism, this is used by Shiva, the god of destruction. And in one of his left hands, he has the Vajra, the weapon of Indra, the god of the storms, and the ruler of all gods. And funnily enough, he is also represented by Gojo's domain expansion's hand sign. So what can we gather about what these are actually going to do? References to mythology in JJK are rarely one-to-one, but when they are, they're pretty direct, such as the flame arrow that Sukuna uses is pretty close to an astra from Hinduism. And astras in Hinduism are usually conjured one-shot range weapons that are formed using hand signs. Sound familiar? And this astra was capable of minor feats like destroying all of creation. You know, with gods, sometimes it's just like that. But in something like the Vajra's case, this is used to summon lightning. And the Trishula is a little more direct, and it's just an infallible, unstoppable weapon. So Sukuna is potentially just stacked to the brim with divine weaponry, and quite fitting for the Fallen to have a stash of godly weapons. And months ago, I made a video on Sukuna's curse technique, but I'm going to talk about it more here for a second. We have statements in this series mentioning Yamato no Orochi, which was a giant 8-headed dragon or serpent in Japanese mythology that was killed by the god Susanoo. And it's time to go deep into theories, because I think that Ryoma Sukuna may be Jujutsu Kaisen's equivalent of the god Susanoo. After slaughtering Yamato no Orochi, Susanoo was known as a heroic figure, and he is also linked as a local deity of harvest and agriculture, just like Sukuna in Chapter 219's flashback, where a village is holding a harvest festival and praying to Sukuna for their crops. That sounds like a local deity to me. And on top of this, in more recent times, Susanoo has also been known to be a patron of love and marriage. And in recent chapters, Sukuna is also heavily implied to know about love. Given some of the direct references to harvest festivals and Sukuna being treated as a deity, along with him being heavily implied to have faced Yamato no Orochi in the past. And I don't see Sukuna as somebody who would let this thing live. I think it's likely that Sukuna is the same person, and he may quite literally be a fallen god. So I think, at the very least, we should expect more divine references within his technique, because as of the making of this video, we're probably going to find out next week what Sukuna's technique is. And back to curse tools, an interesting thing in Jujutsu Kaisen with things like the inverted spear of heaven and the black rope is that they have a notable foreign or abnormal curse energy that disrupts your technique. And in Chapter 220, we find out that Tengen's barriers are not just there to optimize curse energy within Japan, they are the actual foundation of fighting curse spirits and Jujutsu sorcery within Japan. And while we don't have direct confirmation of this, this would explain why foreign cursed objects like the inverted spear of heaven and the black rope are disruptive. Because curse techniques, applications of cursed energy, and even cursed tools within Japan are all operating from the same foundation. And the applications of cursed energy used to create something like the black rope are likely completely different from anything Japan has. And this explains why in both cases of encountering weapons like this, Gojo notes that there is abnormal and foreign cursed energy coming off of them, because he's been living under one cursed energy system his whole life. And the inverted spear of heaven itself is based on the mythological Japanese weapon used by Izanagi and Izanami to quell the primordial chaos. And I can't think of a more primordial chaos in JJK than cursed energy. So what does this mean for Sukuna's fight with Gojo? Well, as I just talked about, Gojo has a pretty long history of getting screwed over by foreign cursed objects. The first time he ran into one, this happened. So depending on if we see these cursed tools in the fight or not, I would not be surprised if they are able to cut through infinity, because that's what the last two did. Either way, they are almost guaranteed to be some of the most overpowered cursed tools to ever grace Jujutsu Kaisen. And unfortunately, if Urame was the one holding them with a bottomless bag, well, they're probably at the bottom of all this rubble right now. And I don't see Sukuna having time to dig through the rubble and past Urame's corpse to find the bag. So unless Sukuna's shrine or his technique have some sort of storage method for actual objects, or these are just manifestations of his actual technique, we'll probably never see them again. But I think that would be rather disappointing because these two weapons have an impressive mythological history. But that's just my opinion, and I want to hear yours. Do you think we're going to see Sukuna's curse tools? And do you agree with me that Sukuna may in fact be the God Susanoo? And I have my fingers crossed that we actually get to see Sukuna's technique next chapter. 223 chapters of next to absolutely nothing. JJK hasn't even given us scraps about this technique since Shibuya. And those weren't even scraps, they're more like a light dusting of salt on your undercooked meal. But either way, I am looking forward to next chapter, and I'm sure you are too. And if you like content like this, subscribe for more. And if you want to see some of the posts I used for research in this video, they'll be linked below. I also want to give a shout out to my channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated. And as always, thanks for watching.